Singapore's Michelin-starred street food is a game changer. Join Renjie and me as we dive into how the Michelin Guide spotted hawker stalls, turning dishes like the Tian Tian Hainanese chicken rice into global icons.
So RJ, for this episode, it's about the Michelin street food.
Yeah.
And that's why I have my phone in my hand. And
Yeah.
I'm sure you will too. Because when it comes to Michelin guides or any other guide, it's always about lists.
Yes.
Right? But for the longest time, the Michelin Guide was always about high-end restaurants, fancy restaurants,
Right.
professional
White
restaurants.
tablecloth.
Exactly, white
Yeah.
tablecloth restaurants. But Singapore was a huge catalyst
Yeah.
in bringing to the fore street food and linking it to the Michelin Guide.
And now, of course, many cities, Michelin guides feature street food. But you are right in that I think we often forget a time where the guide equaled to just fine dining and straight up, and also oftentimes very Western fine dining, very like French-centric fine dining, right? But you are right. So Singapore was the first country to feature street food on its guide. And at that time, it made waves mostly because people didn't associate street food with the Michelin Guide, but also conversely, people didn't associate the Michelin Guide with a $2 meal.
Exactly.
And so I think that for me is the part that encapsulates Singapore's place in the world of food, and I guess like the overall culinary heritage of the world. That's where Singapore sits, and I think in many ways broader Southeast Asia also is the notion that even something as accessible and even something as simple as street food can be taken to such a level of precision and such a level of pure delight and joy, right? And for that reason, actually, I feel that in Singapore in particular, the Michelin Guide, so first of all, the Michelin Guide is divided into a couple of different sections.
Yeah.
So you have the stars, which I think people are very familiar with. And the stars, you get 1, 2, or 3 stars, depending on a whole list of criteria that we can talk about. But in Singapore, where it gets really interesting is actually on the Bib Gourmand list. Because the Bib Gourmand list is where you have a lot of the street food being featured that are very close to Singaporeans' hearts.
Awesome. I'm glad that you explained the Bib Gourmand list because it didn't exist until maybe a decade ago.
Yeah.
Singapore brought it on the map. Now, if you had to talk about all of the places out here, I can see that you sent me a massive list, right?
Yeah,
And-
the latest one I think had 81 listings on the Bib Gourmand list alone. And it's a mix of different types of places, but a lot of them are street food places. But what, to me, kind of binds together this very, very long list of Bib Gourmand places is the notion of just straight up, like, honest to goodness, delicious. And what that means really lies in sort of the broader definition of what a star is and what a Bib Gourmand is. So you know about the star ratings, right?
Yeah.
Michelin, of course, is a tire company, with the Michelin Man, something that we're all very familiar with. And this is actually a really great marketing ploy back, when it was first created, to encourage people to drive and to use, the tires, right? Because the more you drove, the more you wore out the tires.
Correct.
And so they created a guide in which 1 star meant if you're driving, it's worth a stop, right? As a restaurant or whatever. If it's 2 stars, it's worth making a detour. So imagine you're going from, let's say, Paris to Montpellier, but it's worth making a detour to this one restaurant in the countryside just because it's that good. And then the 3 stars equals to worth making an entire trip out of, i.e., I would drive, take a entire road trip just to go eat at this restaurant, right? But where the Bib Gourmand is taking aside things like service, how starched the tablecloth is, or, if you drop a fork on the floor, does someone immediately replace it without even asking? It only looks at value for money. Right?
Yep.
So it's places that are just delicious without necessarily any of the trappings. It can have, very good service, it can or it cannot, but what matters really is what's coming on your plate.
And it's straight up about the food. It's straight up about what is great and what is not.
Yeah.
Right? So how do I categorize this list? Because if there are 81 establishments, I'm not going to be
It's
able
a
to...
long list.
Yeah, it's a long list.
It's a long list.
Yeah.
So, okay, when I look at this list, to me, a couple of places jump out, right? So let's say out of this list of 81, I would say there may be like 10 places that in my mind, I definitely would bring friends who are visiting from out of town to go to, or
Okay.
at least direct their attention to these places. So I think the first general type of places on this list that I love are your classic Bib Gourmand or Michelin-rated street food in a hawker center.
Yeah.
So you probably already know some of this. Tian Tian Hainanese Chicken Rice is a Bib Gourmand. They're in Maxwell Market, which is itself a food center right in the middle of Chinatown.
Okay.
Wonderful. It's my favorite chicken rice in Singapore. But you also have, for instance, the Hawker Chan soy sauce chicken rice,
Okay.
which has 1 Michelin star, and it's really kind of braised, chicken. That's got this beautiful sort of gelatinous texture, and the braise itself is so complex and so heavenly together with the rice. And you have like the mincemeat pork noodles from Tai Wah, which again is also has a Michelin star and gets long queues for their sort of very perfectly balanced bowl of black vinegar noodles.
So let me ask you this question. Street food, right?
Yes.
Which means that the food is available in limited quantities. Because it's on this list, means it is also going to be popular.
Very popular.
So do most of these street food stalls run out of the food whenever they are operating?
So it depends. Certain places, like for instance, Tian Tian Hainanese chicken rice and Tai Wah minced pork noodles, do run out by a certain time. But there are also other places. I think it depends. They're usually, bustling. There's usually some version of a queue. But depending on their business model, some of them choose to, I guess, run out when they run out, and then at the end of the day, they just like come back another day. Or there are other places that tend to, have it a little bit more available. But yeah, I mean, generally, you would be looking at places in hawker centers that are very, very crowded, get a much better chance of eating there if you go earlier in the day.
So of these 81 places, a majority will be very Singaporean. Will have noodles, will have rice.
Yes.
But is that the case all across, or
Yes.
are there other
Well, there are
cuisines as
other
well?
cuisines as well. So, for instance, there's Fico, which I love, and it's run by an Italian chef. He does wonderful handmade pastas. There's a bunch of other Thai places on there, or like Japanese places on there. But one thing, now that you mention it, that is really special, and again, maybe the second type of place on this list that I love, are the places that kind of bring to light a very specific cuisine in the Singaporean community. And one example of that is Muthu's curry.
Okay.
So Muthu's curry does very classic Singaporean Tamil cuisine. And their iconic dish is the fish head curry, right? Which is, again, a very classic Singaporean Tamil dish that you don't really find anywhere in Tamil Nadu, not that much. But to me, just sort of represents like the pinnacle of in my mind, the flavors that I love in the Tamil food. Or also, for instance, this other place on the list here that I really, really love, which is Sik Bao Sin.
Okay.
And it's a tiny place in Geylang. It's in the red light district. But it serves Singaporean Cantonese food, which is so different from all the other types of Cantonese food that I think we are, generally tend to be more familiar with. But what's special about this place is that there's only one wok. There's only one guy who's firing up one wok, and his name is Desmond, and he is the wok master. And every single dish that passes through that you order in the restaurant passes through his hands, because only he has the right technique, the perfect technique of charring something in a wok to get a beautiful balance of flavors, to get that smoky flavor that you get from wok cooking. So that's another example of a very Singaporean specific dish that you can find on this list.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because that is the perfect representation of a Bib Gourmand or
Yes.
a Michelin-starred restaurant. Because what happens at a Michelin-starred restaurant most of the time is there is a head chef
Of course.
who looks at every dish passing through the kitchen.
Yeah.
And that's what gets them the 1-star, 2-star, 3-star.
Yeah.
And chefs are very particular about that.
Yeah.
And I think when you talk about Desmond's wok, every dish passing through that wok
Yeah.
also means how local this food you're getting is, but at the same time, how much effort a chef is really putting into it.
100%. Everything hinges on Desmond's ability to fire up their wok. The last type of place that I would say on this list that I love are the places that serve street food, but do it in maybe more of a sort of formal restaurant setting, right?
Okay.
And this is perfectly in my mind encapsulated by Coconut Club, which serves nasi lemak. It's a restaurant. It's a really cool, vibey kind of a restaurant. In the grand scheme of things, really excellent iteration iteration of nasi lemak, which is their iconic sort of signature dish. And it's a very Malay dish where the rice is cooked with coconut milk and paired together with a couple of sort of very standard and classic traditional pairings, whether it's fried chicken that's encrusted in spices or this sambal, which is made from just a lot of shallots that have been cooked down together with dried chilies. So excellent iteration of nasi lemak, which is again to my mind one of the iconic street foods of Singapore.
Awesome. I'm glad we did this episode because we covered a whole lot in just like a small time frame. And the fact that there are so many special places in Singapore that are value for money will just give our listeners and viewers a whole lot to like list down and then ensure that they tick it off.
Yeah.
For the next episode, I want to go back to a discussion that we had a long time ago and talk about a festival, an Indian festival that you say, or according to you, is bigger in Singapore than it is in India. We'll not name the festival, but I'm super excited for you to tell us about it. And let's end this episode about food and move away from food for the next one and talk about that one.
You'll have to stay tuned to find out.
Awesome.